Welcome everybody. I have an update for the hard surface toolbox, and it's going to be in the mirror machine. Now you're going to have this little operator here called the add Boolean preset. There a few things are going to happen. Number one, you can click and place the cursor anywhere you want. You press D and then go over and click to add. And when you do that, it's going to add a Boolean. It's going to create a Boolean modifier on your main object. And I happen to have a few in here because I was testing. It's going to create a Boolean modifier. It's going to add a collection. It's going to throw that into the collection and name it cutter so you can kind of figure out what you got going on. Now if you want to add in another one, just press D, and it's going to continue to add into the Boolean collection. And at some point you just want to turn those off. You'll still have your Boolean objects. So anywhere you snap the 3D cursor, even if it's off grid here, it's going to end up there. This is a cube and it is coming in as a wire. So I did some presets here. So viewport visibility, come down, it's going to show as wire. If I want to show that as solid, you can see it is just a regular cube. I've got it showing as wire so you can do a normal Boolean. Now it gets even better because I've added some more intuitive controls for you. So if you open up the end panel, you will notice that Bevel Magic 5 has been added to the hard surface toolbox. And this is good because now you don't have to have Bevel Magic. You can just have one add-on. And it won't take up a whole lot of space. All these collapse. You can pin these. So if you change workspaces and you always need this up, you can always have it. And I can just unpin that anytime. Plus, these are shiftable, so if you want this at the top of your stack, you can do that. Now, why is this good? Because I added a category selection list with an icon gallery. You can look at everything in your view layer and select it as an active object. You can also look at what is selected. There's only one thing selected, that's cutter, that's this one. Now, if I was to select this plus the main object, I'll see cube and I'll see cutter, and I can go in and select that as active. Now if you happen to have any lights in the scene, I just did that as a fun little bonus. You can have a light list as well, and so now you'll be able to select the active lights. Does not matter too much, but you can do that. And there we go. That works better if I don't have it on selected folder. Now for the upgrade that I find to be the most useful part of that snapping Booleans and doing all that work is presets. That's cool, but this is the favorite thing right here, is being able to go in to the object collection that is bool collection that it's named. So you'll just be able to go in and select these, which I think is going to be a little bit better. So if you got in here, and I'm just going to get a little wild and just add a whole bunch of Booleans in here. Oh yeah, and you have to select your object that you're actually going to cut. Otherwise, the modifier doesn't know what to do. And so now I've got all these Booleans, and which one do I select? Well, you can actually rename them, whatever you want. And I would just call this maybe like left side or whatever. If you're getting real froggy with it, and you got a whole bunch of Booleans, and you come back in here, and the naming convention is going to show, and you'll be able to select that one anytime you want. So there's a little bit of setup. I can't name things for you, but I have made it a little bit easier. So if you want to say, just leave that the way it is, cutter, and just say cutter right, then you can have cutter right and cutter left, and it works out nice. And of course, don't forget, you have more Boolean controls because of the stack and storage, which I removed the storage for now. I'm going to put the storage over here. Like, as far as the feedback I've got, nobody uses it, but I will add it back in just in case you do, and I will kind of dumb it off over here under at the bottom, so you guys can just store location, rotation, scale of all your objects, which is pretty useful. So thing I want you to be aware of is that you're going to have some objects in here. This one, for some reason, I must have Booleaned. I Booleaned that one by accident. So none of these should have Booleans on them. They are the cutter. But if you grab your main object, you can come over, and this is laid out just like the modifier area should be, and the way the devs are doing it with the edit, generate, deform, and physics. And I know I typoed physics, it's just PyPsychs or whatever you want to call it. It's fun. Go under this one, which is generate, and we can go to Boolean. And when you click on Boolean, you'll have controls for all of your Booleans. And if we want to collapse that stack, because we don't really want to have this stack open because we're doing some of our work over here, you could change the viewport visibility of certain Booleans, and this will stay as long as you don't click off of it. I've actually got a nice upgrade coming that's a floating panel. You don't have to kind of like keep your mouse too close to it. It's going to be it's a sick update. I can't wait till I'm done with that, but I got a lot of work to do. So there are all your controls. You can rename. Excuse me, this is with the object. This is the object listed for each one of these. And there's the name and then the type. Then you can add a Boolean modifier if you wish, or a bevel or whatever you want. And we go back in. You can go into Boolean, and I put a loop. So you can go through every single modifier in here and see if it has anything. So I would want to switch over to bevel, and I killed it. Let me try that one more time. So Boolean, go here, switch to bevel. Now I'll have bevel stuff here, and it just keeps looping. I can switch back to Boolean and go over that. And then if you just kind of move your mouse off, all that stuff disappears. But like I said, I've got a better panel coming. It's just a massive amount of work. I just got to the point where I'm working with JSON files now, and some better UI improvements have been done behind the scenes, things you can't see, but really speeds up the add-on significantly, and it's allowing me to do more things like this and list out collections. But anyways, if you guys don't have this add-on, go pick it up. It's got a massive amount of features. It's got the hard surface toolbox here. If you click this little button, it's going to load over 100 hard surface models that have already been changed to quads, so they're just ready to build, and they come with the material. It does take a few seconds to load, but once it does, you'll have this little tiny drop-down list and icons, and you'll also have this list with icons that I rendered out. And so you'll be able to go through all of these. Are pretty high res, and you better go through all of these different parts, plus some of the different things I left in here just for fun. Some of the junior stuff I did when I first started Blender. And so there you go. Don't forget, you've got the pie menu for mirroring. There's an array menu, a lot of cool things. So if you want, you can come in here and drop, say, a UV sphere, and we want to put that on an array or a grid or something like that, we can do that. And it'll just make an array, or you can go in and it'll make this type of array, and you'll get a geometry nodes set up for that, and you can start working with, you know, all kinds of different things. You could change all the different parameters. It's geo nodes, so you can kind of do what you want. And there'll also be the grid. You can change the grid count, if you will, make a lot of cool things. And you're like, why is that in the hard surface toolbox? Well, I always like to be able to array things. And if I want to like quickly erase something and then maybe use that, say, as a cutter, then I'm able to do that, and rapidly. And so something like that, and then maybe scaled up a touch more. Something like that, and then boom. Oops, I'm on a different keyboard. I finally got my real keyboard, guys, so it's a lot more difficult for me to figure out what buttons to push right now. Yeah, so there you go. I can shade that smooth, and so I can erase things much more quickly. It just makes a lot of sense. And then under this, you can switch the gallery, go in, and you can go to any folder that has blend files. It's going to load those as categories, and then you can come down and you can load those. Those particular ones are now upgraded with a basic icon, because it was just blank before. I didn't like that. So I went ahead and just put good old Suzanne in there. She's kind of scrunched up, but anytime you want to append something in, and that appended way over here, because that is where it is in the blend file. So if you want to append it to the cursor, bring the cursor over here, and you can start appending things in to the actual blend file, if you will. And these are just parts that are in the actual hard surface toolbox right here. These are the same things. I just loaded that for the fun of it. But just so when you do load your own file, you'll have an icon and you'll have the name of it. And that's the best I could do because I can't make icons for you and download them to your computer and then make sure it works with the add-on. You have to have that already. So that's why I have a preset gallery, and then I've got the custom gallery. You can go do what you want with that. You can append in collections as well. All you gotta do is just re-click, and once you do that, you can pull in an entire collection. If the screen's not moving, don't touch it. It's appending in some stuff, and you'll be able to do that. Now, all of that aside, you do have some other pretty powerful mirroring controls, and those controls are going to be under the mirror machine edit here. So if I add a mirror to this, I'll be able to constrain that on access and then keep working with it. And of course you can add, other objects per se, whatever you would want. And I'm just going to draw a cylinder in right here. Let's constrain that a little bit. There we go. And if I want to add that to the mirroring, it's going to add it. And guess what? It's going to control both of them now. So it's a super cool setup. You can build robots like this. You can build things. It's just kind of the design of the way it works. And then once you are done, say you're done with this, go ahead and apply that mirror. It's going to give each object its own origin point. It's going to reset that for you. It's also going to separate things by loose parts. The cool thing is, though, this empty is still going to control the other parts. So if you want to be done with one part, you can. And so if I grab these, I can go ahead and apply it, or I can delete it. If I apply it, it's going to separate them by loose parts, and then I can remove that empty, and then I'm all ready to start rigging, texturing, UV unwrapping, whatever you want to do with this stuff. And so that will be good. And there's a bunch of other things you can do in here. I'll show you one more thing and then the tutorial is over. And let's grab this. And if you press this little button here, you'll get the carver tool. Okay, carver tool is native to Blender. You don't have to have my add-on for this. But if you don't have it or don't know how to use it, I've got an advanced tutorial on how to use it. Because I'm very proficient with it. I love it. It's very good. This is the carver tool. It is not something I'm going to explain here because you have to have a tutorial for that. But Control-Shift-X will invoke it, and then I can grab, say, the cursor. Actually, let me put the cursor right there, and I can re-invoke this, and I can turn on cursor depth and just cut a little piece there. Oop. Let's see. Did I cut it? Yeah. Okay, I cut it. And so then we can mirror that with the mirror machine and just swipe down, and I can mirror from the positive Y over here and clear it up, or I can mirror to the negative Y and just kind of swipe it and get all of those corners. So those are kind of the highlights of having this particular add-on. And I want to real quick, let's just cut this a few times in a few places. Oops, I didn't select my object. Gotta remember, you gotta do that. Otherwise, you're not actually cutting anything. And let's do that. Get out of there. And one more thing. You'll now have, and you have to actually select the object that has modifiers. You'll now have a select active right here. And there's one problem with this. If I start selecting actives, it'll set that as an active modifier for you because sometimes you need to do that. And then my list here will actually move things up and down. But the problem is, and I haven't figured it out yet, is that there is an index for this area that I am not able to access for some reason. I haven't seen it. So if you select another active one that was not the first active, then you can't shift the stack. But if you leave it alone, you can shift the stack. I'll remedy that at some point, just like my little physics word over here. But anyways, appreciate you guys watching. Go pick up this add-on. I've got a bunch of tutorials on how to go through everything in more detail. And I'll see you guys in the next one.